Welcome to Good Games Spawn Point, the show for younger gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Bajo.
And I am D.A.R.R.E.N, but you can call me D.A.R.R.E.N.
Well, I think we're all still a little out of breath after last week's journey into space, so I think today we'll keep our feet firmly on the ground.
Yes, and you could say there's a bit of a land theme with today's episode as we adventure through the RPG history of Evoland. And fighting off the dangers of the forest in Badland.
I am also going to be visiting a faraway land.
Oh, another jaunt around the globe, Darren, to find out how other gamers live.
Alright, well, I'll go read the news so we can get straight to the games.
Okay. Hey, Darren, when you go around the world, how do you not run out of fuel? Why don't you just crash into the sea?
Oh, Mumbot always prepares me a packed lunch of electrochemical cells.
Oh, do you get lots of bugs stuck in your grill as you fly?
A little bit.
I think I can see some now.
No, don't.
Is that a bee?
Don't touch it. No.
Hex here from the Spawn Point Newsdesk. Caleb Craft is a Mario fan who has always dreamed of recreating a fire-breathing piranha plant in real life, so he did. The man-sized plant is made mostly of foam and cardboard and can breathe fire either indoors or outside thanks to two different fire-spewing mechanisms, both of which Caleb admits are immensely unsafe. And in more Mario news, 4 developers have created a computer program that randomly builds levels for Infinite Mario Bros., a fan-made Mario game created by Minecraft's Marcus Notch Persson. The project was created for a research paper called a procedural level generator. The program actually creates multiple levels, which can then be combined to create a level based on the best aspects of each random generation. The program can create 20 new levels every second.
I had a part-time job as a bug zapper once.
Hey, what was that like?
I don't recommend it.
Oh, okay. Oh, hello, Hex.
Hi.
Right, well now it's time to go back in time to a land before HD textures, before colour, before sound. Let's go to Evoland.
As Evoland begins, you find yourself back at almost the very beginning of the action RPG genre. You're stuck in a simple black and white world, limited to two-dimensional movement. But awaiting you is a chest, and inside that chest, the future!
Yes, the whole idea behind Evoland is that you go on an adventure through the history of action RPGs. Chests contain specific advances the genre made, like sound effects, save points, 16-bit colour, 3D movement, turn-based combat, and so on, until eventually you work your way up into an almost modern-day game.
Yeah, and it's such a clever concept, isn't it? And I love the early part of this game as you drip-fed those upgrades. Going on that journey is basically like an interactive history of video games. It hits you with waves of nostalgia at every turn. But after the first half hour, things stop evolving and then it all just gets a bit simple and frustrating.
Affirmative. The game is a mix of RPG and adventure game combat styles. So at times you'll fight in turn-based battles similar to the early Final Fantasy games, while at other times you'll be fighting it out in real time as you would in the early Zelda games. And while we commend the variety of combat types, they're both extremely basic and rather dull.
Yeah, in the turn-based battles, for example, you only ever have 2 party members, and there isn't much, if any, strategy to the combat. The enemies attack you, your warrior attacks, your mage heals, and then everything just repeats again and again.
Yeah, and there's even a point where the mage actually leaves you and then you need to continue throughout the world solo. But the world is full of random encounters and they don't scale back those encounters to deal with that. Some of the battles are fine, but often you get slogged with these big groups of enemies who take off half your health in one go. Health potions restore less than they take off too, so there's really no way to win. They attack, you heal, they attack, and then you're dead.
It's essentially broken.
Yes, that section took me at least 5 times to get through, and that was just with sheer luck.
Yeah, and there are just so many random encounters, aren't there? I swear every 3 seconds, bam, random encounter. Make it stop.
Random encounters are renowned for being annoying, but these are by far the most annoying ones I've ever encountered.
The most annoying ones you've ever randomly encountered?
Affirmative.
Anyway, the real-time combat doesn't fare much better, unfortunately. There's no dive or roll move, and for most of the game, you only have a single attack. It's as basic as combat gets. You do eventually unlock a simple combo attack, but it doesn't really help keep it interesting.
Yes, and the one thing that could have really saved it would have been the boss fights, but sadly they're not much fun either. I remember this one boss fight in particular where you just had to keep running slowly away, wait for him to make an attack, land a few sword blows, and then run around in circles for a bit. so it wasn't very much fun. And those wizards, stop disappearing!
In the old days, I really remember those RPGs having such challenging and fun puzzles. And I did love the idea of switching between the two styles of old and new graphics to solve a puzzle here, but there's just all this backtracking you have to do as you switch things around. If only he moved a little bit faster, I wouldn't have minded, but every time I had to backtrack to that crystal, I groaned a little. My kingdom for a run button.
If only they had one tucked away in a chest.
I know we're sounding a bit harsh on this game, but really it is just because it is so simple. And there are lots of clever nods to other games, so you can feel it was made by people with a deep love for this kind of genre. But you just need to have that gameplay there to back it up.
Yeah, and it's a shame really, because I really would have loved this to have been as good a game as it was a history lesson, but I think it's a case of style over substance, and it doesn't do retro gaming's past any good justice, so I'm giving it a 5.
I'm giving it 5 as well.
All right, make way. I've just got the all clear to take off from Kerry. I'm off again around the world. Take off I go. Hello and welcome to Gaming Around the World with me, Darren. Today we're going to Egypt. Egypt, part of what's known as the cradle of civilization, is a country with almost 80 million people, located in northernmost Africa. The language spoken there is Arabic, which is almost as difficult for English speakers to learn as robot. The pyramids, tombs of the ancient pharaohs. Some silly humans believe they were built by aliens. No comment. The Sphinx. Her riddle has baffled humans for millennia. I thought it was quite easy. So many stalls, so many markets. Everything's bizarre at the bazaar. Gaming goes back a long way in Egypt. It's home to one of the oldest games in the world, Senat. A bit like a cross between chess and drafts, Senat dates back to 3100 BC and is even depicted on ancient hieroglyphs on the walls of old tombs. The most popular type of game in Egypt these days is multiplayer soccer, games such as FIFA and Pro Evo.
Great finish.
There are also many games set in Egypt, such as the wonderful city builder Pharaoh 2. Sly 2 Band of Thieves begins with a museum heist in Egypt's capital, Cairo. And there's many an Egyptian tomb in the world's greatest action-adventure games. Your mumbot or dadbot might even remember an old arcade machine that let you plunge into the depths of a pyramid called Tutankhamun. The actual Egyptian king was named Tutankhamun, but that was too long to fit on the front of the machine. Internet speeds in Egypt are, for the most part, awfully slow, making downloading or playing online games extremely difficult. Games are hard to find at the shops, too. Most places only stock a small selection, and they're typically overpriced. Smaller, dodgier shops sell illegal copies of games. Indeed, games are so hard to come by in Egypt that gamers have to form small communities over social media just to find, buy, or trade the latest games they want. In Egypt's capital, Cairo, there are public PlayStation cafes where you can go to play the latest console and PC games, a bit like visiting a LAN cafe in Australia. You pay some money and have a limited amount of time with the game of your choice. This is a much more affordable way to game for many young Egyptians. Egypt. It's a tough place to be if you're an avid young gamer today, but having actual pyramids and tombs full of ancient stories on your doorstep is rather wonderful too. Well, time to head back to the studio. Off I go!
Okay, so many questions, so little time, so why don't we just get into them? First up, we've got this one from Minecraft Critic 55, who is in, this is quite complicated. X equals minus 309.950956. Z equals 226. Are they coordinates?
I think they're coordinates. I'm punching them in. Keep going.
Okay, 17,966, I think, which is outside Australia somewhere.
Canberra.
Canberra's not outside Australia,
And that's why it doesn't make sense.
it's our capital territory, in fact. Hey GGSP, you used a world editor on your Minecraft world. There are obvious cliff cuttings at x equals minus 309.95096, z equals 226.17966. How do you explain that? Screenshots are below. P.S. Darren is a noob.
Darren is a noob. Well, Minecraft Critic 55, we honestly didn't use any kind of editor on our Minecraft world.
But we can explain why those cliffs are there. See, we first created that world years and years ago when the game was still in early alpha. And as new updates were released, the way the terrain was randomly generated changed a lot with the additions of biomes and whatnot.
Yeah, so as we went outside of areas we already explored, new areas got generated a bit wrong and created these kind of weird cliffs. You can even see in one of your screenshots how a rainforest biome suddenly starts with a big cliff.
Well, there you go. So moving on now to this one from Killabob, who is in the unknown, New South Wales.
Is there a Connect race car game?
There sure is, Killabob. In fact, there's a few, but we'd say the best is probably Forza 4. It's by far the biggest and the most fully featured racing game on the 360, and it has a whole mode that lets you race using just the Kinect. And there's even an Auto Vista mode where you can use the Kinect to walk around some cars and really explore them.
But best of all, you don't actually need the Kinect, so when you get a bit tired of waving your arms around, you can just play it like a normal person with a controller.
Yeah, other Kinect-only options like Kinect Joyride are actually pretty bad in our opinion, since you can do pretty well just by sitting there and doing nothing, which is hardly an exciting gaming experience.
Yes. There's also Connect Rush, a Disney Pixar adventure, which has a bunch of different games based on the Pixar films, one of which is Cars. And that's actually a much better racing game than Connect Joyride, in my opinion.
Well, there are a few options for you there, so let's move on to this one from the King of High Five. Ooh, in Terraria, New South Wales.
Your Highness?
Hi, I am the King of High Five. It is my world, and if you want to join, my thing is High Five, no spaces. Now, what is yours? Tell me, otherwise you cannot help me find Hellbar, and how do you get a gun, and how can you get pasted the old man at the Dongan, and how do you get the golden chesties open that locked on the floating islands? Yes, there is two, or made more, because the next one is gold, and there's gold on the island. So please, help me. Woo, woo, woo. Need help now. The King of High Fives, Badger. We're in the presence of royalty.
Hail, glorious leader! Hail, King of High Five!
What's that?
That's what you do when you meet the King of High Five.
Wouldn't you just give him a high five?
That's considered rude. Oh, to show our appreciation for the King of High Five, Hex, we should high five ourselves.
All right. Gotta warm up.
You would have liked that one.
Walk like an Egyptian.
What's that singing?
Darren!
Walk like an Egyptian.
Darren!
Is this really gonna happen
Darren,
every week?
stop
The
it.
Darren,
Japanese
drop my
and
phone.
the Yen
What is this song you're singing?
Can you at least give us a chance to create some room?
Darren, this is a bit surprising. I thought you were in Egypt.
Negative, I'm back now. I couldn't help but overhear you discussing high fives. Did you know that the first ever high five was from an ancient Egyptian hieroglyph?
I'm pretty sure that was just an internet meme, Darren. Have you fact-checked that source?
Oh, there's no need for that. The internet is always correct, Hex. Now, what question are we answering?
Well, Hex and I were about to answer this question from the King of High Fives. It's a Terraria question about how to craft hellstone bars.
Oh, I love Terraria. Well, King of High Five, to craft them, you need three things. First, a Hellforge. These can be found in the underworld. In order to bring a Hellforge to the surface, you need to remove it with a hammer of 60% strength or higher. Or you can just blow out the bricks underneath using explosives.
Right, well, thank you, Darren. So now you have your crafting station, you'll need to get the minerals.
But you'll also have to head deep into the underworld to get them. Just make sure you have a pickaxe of nightmare strength or stronger. You'll need it to mine obsidian and hellstone, which are, of course, the ingredients of a hellstone bar. Hellstone bars are 4 parts hellstone, 1 part obsidian, so focus mainly on gathering hellstone to start off with. Be wary of the little bits of lava that escape when you remove a piece of hellstone. They can prove deadly.
Darren, that was all very helpful, but, you know, I've played quite a bit of Terraria too, so I think I'm a little bit of an expert and I'd like to add my expertise to this conversation. Now, Your Highness, you'll need to get obsidian, which can be found a little bit above the underworld where lava pockets start to appear.
Affirmative. Obsidian is formed when water and lava collide. So once again, you'll be working with hazardous lava. Ooh, so be careful. Once you've collected enough of each mineral, then head back to your Hellforge and you can now make hellstone bars.
You know, Darren, when you hijack conversations, it means that you think your conversation is more important than my one, and what you have to say is more important. Excuse me for a moment. Hello, security? Yes, Darren is in here hijacking conversations. Could you please have him removed? Okay. Apparently, Darren is the security for the ABC.
What's the next question, Hex?
Well, Darren, His Highness actually had a few mortuary questions, if you wanted to answer those and just take over the whole program. He was asking about getting past the old man at the dungeon.
Oh, well, that's just a matter of talking to him at night, which will get him to summon Skeletron. Watch out, because he is one of the tougher surface bosses. But beating Skeletron will give you access to the dungeon and the treasures within. So much loot.
Oh, and watch out, because within the dungeon there are plenty of nasty monsters. But it is the only place to find golden keys, which are used to open the gold chests within the dungeon, as well as the ones on the floating islands.
Affirmative. However, the most surefire way to get a gun is by breaking a shadow orb. The first shadow orb you break in any map will drop a musket and some musket balls. And you can find shadow orbs in the corrupted zones. They can be hard to reach though, so make sure you bring plenty of explosives. The good thing is that once you've found a gun, an arms dealer will spawn at one of your homes, so you can buy more guns and ammunition from him.
Yes, thank you, Darren. As informative as ever.
Yes, even though you interrupted us a whole bunch. And I think that answers all of your question, actually. Your greatness. Hey, Darren, I think earlier I saw some noobs in the studio. Did you see them before?
Oh, yes,
Noobs in the Darren cave? Negative! Charging my laser!
Nice one, Bajo.
Thanks. I got rid of him. He'll take care of those noobs.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to this one from Nexus Master, who is in the Minecraft Nexus outside Australia.
I think they were part of that ABC tour group that come around every now and then.
Oh, yeah.
These tour groups come around the ABC.
Knocking things over, making a mess.
Stealing my cheese sandwiches.
Oh, no, that was me.
And they love Earl Grey tea. Give me it back!
It's in my belly.
That's right, I've got 7 more. Hi, guys. I was wondering if there is any space-age RTS out there where you get spaceships or force fields besides the Halo one. Thanks. Also, what does rubber banding mean? Well, Nexus Master, there are a few space-age RTSs out there. One of our favourites is the Homeworld series for the PC.
Yeah, the first Homeworld is one of our all-time favourite RTS campaigns. You basically have to build up a fleet and then try and get your civilization back to its homeworld after the planet they were exiled to gets destroyed. And unlike most RTS games, you actually keep all of your units from mission to mission, so not to mention the combat is fully 3D, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the 3D does make it tricky though. The first time I played through the campaign, I got right near the end, but didn't have a big enough fleet to get through the last mission, so it was all the way back to the start for me. But anyway, Homeworld is quite old and doesn't seem to be available anywhere as a digital download, although we were able to track down an old boxed copy online easily enough.
Yeah, and the Sins of the Solar Empire games are great too.
Yes.
They don't have any story, but they're extremely epic, especially if you get a game going with a bunch of friends.
As for what rubber banding is, well, basically, it's a mechanic used mostly in racing games to keep the races close. It makes anyone first or near the front of the pack go slower, while anyone in last or near the back of the pack go faster. You mostly find it in quite arcadey racing games like Mario Kart and the recent Motocross Madness.
Yeah, it's usually quite subtle and ideally you shouldn't notice it. And sometimes games like Mario Kart, they actually do try to assist rubber banding through the power-ups that you get.
Indeed. So if you're in first, you usually get weaker power-ups like bananas or a green shell, if you're lucky. But when you're in the back of the pack, you get the best ones like lightning or the dreaded blue shell.
Indeed. But on that note, we're out of time for this week. As always, if you'd like to ask us a question, then you can do so here. For now, back to the studio!
Back to the studio! My legs are asleep.
Darren's wardrobe person, but
Yeah.
look at this fancy
Looks great. Looks fabulous. Now, games like Tiny Wings and Jetpack Joyride have become so popular on smartphones and tablets because they work so well for those kinds of devices. But Badland refreshes everything again with a gorgeous art style and fiendish physics.
You control a rather portly bat who flies through a strange yet beautiful forest. Considering the foreground is all silhouettes, it's surprising how much personality your bat has. The animation and momentum give that little guy some real heart.
It's not a safe forest though. At every turn there is dangerous industrial equipment designed to wipe out your clone army of bats.
Affirmative. I quite admired the efficiency of these machines. There are all sorts of saws, spikes and explosives, and even some guns that fire sticky spikes. No lasers, though. Shame.
Well, I certainly wasn't admiring the machinery. I was too busy keeping my bats alive for as long as possible. Thankfully, there were some pretty cool power-ups to help you out. My favourite was the cloning icon that creates a group of bats instantly. This way you've got a better chance of getting through hazards with at least a few alive. And naturally, the more clones you get to the exit, the more points you get. Come to think of it, Darren, what is a group of bats called?
Well, bats are commonly called a colony when they travel in a group, but it's also acceptable to call them a cloud of bats.
Ooh, a cloud of bats. I like that. And this game looks amazing when you get the slow motion power up and you see all that in action. It's a bit like a nature documentary where you see those flocks of birds and you can watch them all changing course together. I also like the size power-ups. Unleash the monster bat!
Don't forget the bouncy power-up. It's like your bat becomes a super ball ricocheting around the level. What did you think of the level design, Bajo?
I thought they were quite clever. It's like the bats are dominoes triggering chain reactions within these levels. This does mean that there is really only one solution, so you don't have that much freedom within the levels.
Affirmative. The dreaded trial and error gameplay rears its ugly head here. Often you'll hit a dead end and realise that the only way to succeed is to hit a hard-to-reach power-up. Or to split your colony up, so half can trigger a switch or power-up, allowing the other half to continue.
You know, I didn't mind the trial and error so much. I mean, these levels are all so elaborate and beautiful that I was happy to just tinker about until I found the solution.
I really liked the multiplayer. I thought it was a nice surprise. When you're playing with a second person, you both control different bats by tapping your own side of the screen. The rounds move really quickly as you race to nab the power-ups first and stay alive.
I do think the small screen of a phone was a little bit much for Darren's mighty pasta scoops, though.
Concentrate.
Go, 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 go!
Go.
Darren! No, Darren, get your hand... Oh, this isn't working at all.
Maybe we should play on a tablet next time.
Good idea.
I think so. Well, this game was an absolute gem. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, you know, the quality of mobile games seems to improve almost weekly. I loved it. I'm giving it 8 as well.
Well, sadly, that's all the time we have for this week, but next week on Spawn Point, and I'm rather excited about this, we have a new game from legendary game designer Sid Meier. He created Civilization, which is one of the most amazing PC strategy games ever, and his new game is called Ace Patrol.
The skies over Europe are a dangerous place, where ace pilots lead their squadrons to glorious victory.
Sid Meier's very first game in 1982 was also a World War II flight combat game. It would seem that he's returning to his roots.
And next week we also break out the plumber's hat and the bananas for Mario and Donkey Kong Minis on the Move.
Way to go!
Mario and Donkey Kong together. I wonder if it's friendship or an uncomfortable alliance that leads to crazy hijinks.
Well, we'll just have to find out next week. Until then, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Bajo out.
Darren, regretfully, until next week, out.
Darren, is that your new catchphrase?
Not sure. I'm workshopping it.
Yeah. Try this. Try stay classy, French perf. Darren out.
In a French accent.
Yeah.
Stay classy, French perf. Darren out.
Ooh la la.
Baguette.